It's 2:13 in the morning and once again you cannot sleep. The room is dark except for the cold light coming from your phone screen. Outside, the world feels silent, almost frozen, but inside your mind everything is loud. Every memory, every disappointment, every unanswered prayer. You keep replaying conversations from months ago. You think about the people who slowly disappeared from your life without explanation. You think about the opportunities that almost happened but somehow slipped away at the last second. And no matter how hard you try to distract yourself, there is one feeling you cannot escape. The feeling that everyone else is moving forward while you remain stuck in the exact same place. You scroll through social media and watch people your age getting engaged, building careers, traveling, laughing with friends, posting milestones, celebrating victories. Their lives seem bright and full of movement while yours feels quiet and painfully delayed. You begin asking yourself dangerous questions. What am I doing wrong? Why does everyone else seem blessed except me? Why does it feel like God pulled people away from my life and slowly, without even realizing it, isolation starts turning into something heavier? It starts feeling like abandonment. But what if this season is not what you think it is? What if the silence surrounding you right now is not evidence that God left you, but evidence that He is protecting you from things you cannot yet see? Because sometimes before God changes your life, He changes your environment first. And that process almost never feels good. It feels lonely, confusing, uncomfortable. You think you are losing people, but in reality, certain people cannot go where your future is taking you. Some relationships looked healthy on the surface while secretly draining your spirit underneath. Some environments kept you distracted from your purpose. Some conversations sounded normal but quietly destroyed your confidence every single day. And when God begins preparing someone for a new season, one of the first things He removes is noise. That is why isolation feels so intense. Silence forces you to hear clearly again. Distance exposes what was controlling your emotions. Loneliness reveals who you become when nobody is clapping for you anymore. Because there is a spiritual battle happening that most people never recognize. Not every war looks dramatic. Sometimes spiritual warfare looks like exhaustion, delay, confusion, overthinking, feeling disconnected from everyone around you. The enemy does not always attack through chaos. Sometimes he attacks through discouragement. He wants you to believe your season has no purpose. He wants you to think the delay means denial. He wants you to mistake preparation for punishment because if you truly believe you were forgotten, you will eventually stop fighting for your future. But listen carefully. If God truly abandoned you, you would not still feel that small voice inside you telling you to keep going. The fact that part of you still refuses to completely give up, even after all the disappointment, is proof that heaven is still working behind the scenes. You are not buried. You are being hidden for a reason. Seeds disappear underground before they ever grow into something strong enough to survive storms. The truth is that real strength is never built in comfort. Nobody develops endurance accidentally. Athletes understand this. Soldiers understand this. Anyone who has ever transformed their life understands this. Muscle only grows after resistance tears it apart first. That soreness after intense training is evidence that the body is rebuilding itself stronger than before. Spiritually, the process works the same way. The version of you entering your next season cannot think like the old version. It cannot react emotionally the same way. It cannot depend on validation from people the same way. So this season starts breaking old habits, old fears, old attachments, and old mindsets. And honestly, that process hurts. Growth often feels like loss before it feels like progress. That is why this season feels so heavy. Your spirit is carrying emotional weight your old self was too weak to handle before. But slowly, without you even noticing, you are changing. You are becoming harder to manipulate, harder to distract, harder to break. The isolation is teaching you how to survive without depending on people who were never assigned to stay in your life permanently. Some of the strongest people in history were shaped in hidden seasons. Before David faced Goliath publicly, he fought lions and bears privately. Before Joseph reached the palace, he survived betrayal, slavery, and prison. Before Jesus began his ministry, he spent 40 days alone in the wilderness. Isolation has always been part of preparation, not because God enjoys watching people suffer, but because focus grows in separation. There are lessons crowds cannot teach. There is wisdom that only develops in silence. There is strength that only appears when you have nobody left to lean on except God. And maybe that is why your life feels slow right now. Maybe heaven is building foundations deep enough to support the future you once prayed for, because blessings are heavy. Real purpose is heavy. Responsibility is heavy. And if God handed certain things to you too early, they would have crushed you instead of elevating you. Sometimes delay is not rejection. Sometimes delay is mercy. One day, everything will suddenly make sense. The doors that closed, the friendships that ended, the opportunities that disappeared. The nights you cried alone wondering if your life would ever change. You will look back and realize you were not being rejected. You were being redirected. While you thought your life was falling apart, God was quietly removing what could not survive in the future He was preparing for you. And the waiting season does not last forever. There comes a moment when the door finally opens. A moment when opportunities appear out of nowhere. The right people enter your life naturally. Peace returns. Confidence comes back stronger than before. And when it happens, you will realize why the process had to be so deep. Because the person stepping into that new season is no longer fragile. You survived the silence. You survived the loneliness. You survived the nights where you almost gave up. The isolation forced you to discover strength you never knew existed inside you. So if you are in that season right now, hear this clearly. Your life is not over. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. And you are not being punished. You are being prepared. Even now, behind the scenes, things are moving that you cannot yet see. Doors are shifting. Lessons are developing. Strength is growing quietly inside you. The waiting room is not your final destination. One day the door will open, and when it does, you will realize this lonely season was never empty. It was sacred. And when that breakthrough finally arrives, you will understand something powerful. God was never ignoring you during the isolation. He was building you there.